Okay, so a shadow war that's been simmering for decades, it just blew up right out in the open. The whole world is basically holding its breath right now. Why? Because one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, most controversial leaders in the Middle East is just gone. And what happens next? Well, it could literally reshape the entire globe. So let's get right into it and break down what on earth just happened.
And it all happened so fast. On February 28, 2026, a joint U.S.-Israeli operation, something that must have been planned with insane precision, struck right at the very heart of the Iranian regime. Now, you got to understand, this wasn't some kind of warning shot. No, this was a decapitation strike. The goal? To change the balance of power in the Middle East, maybe for good.
And the shockwaves? They hit immediately. The Financial Express put it perfectly, saying, "The world woke up to a sight that global energy markets have long feared." I mean, this is literally the nightmare scenario for economists and world leaders. The ripple effects started instantly, and believe me, they spread way beyond just the Middle East.
All right, Section 1. A leader is killed. So, let's dig into the details here. One source called this a massive, wildly bold daytime attack, and honestly, that kind of nails it. We're talking about an unprecedented move against the sitting leader of a sovereign country. I mean, the level of precision here is just staggering. The target? Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, a guy who's been in power for more than 30 years. The method? A brazen daytime airstrike. 30 bombs dropped on his compound in Tehran. And the key to the whole thing? The real game changer? Pinpoint intelligence from the CIA, telling them exactly where he was and when. And that precision had a devastating human cost, especially for his family. In total, 5 people were killed in that compound. It wasn't just Khamenei. The strike also killed his daughter, his son-in-law, a grandchild, and his daughter-in-law. Just think about that. A huge part of his inner circle, his own family, wiped out in an instant.
Okay, Section 2, the path to conflict. Now, as shocking as this was, it didn't just happen in a vacuum. This wasn't some bolt from the blue. No. To really get what's going on, you have to look at the months of conflict that were ratcheting up, setting the stage for something this drastic.
So the road to this assassination was really paved over several months. You could say it all kicked off in June 2025, with what they're calling the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. It was short, it was brutal, and it basically left both sides gearing up for what was next. After that war, Khamenei got a lot more cautious, way more reclusive. So for months, the CIA was tracking his every pattern, just waiting for that one rare chance to strike. And that window, it finally opened on February 28th, when they got intel that he was having a big meeting with senior officials. That was the moment. That's when they went in.
All right, next up, Iran strikes back. So with their leader gone, you can bet Iran's response was going to be fast and it was going to be furious. Tehran didn't just lash out at Israel and the US. Nope, they went after their allies all across the region, and it sparked absolute chaos.
And how did they strike back? Well, it was classic Iran. They unleashed these huge barrages of ballistic missiles and those Shahed 136 drones, the kamikaze ones. It's a strategy designed to just overwhelm air defenses with sheer numbers, a swarm attack. And they didn't just pick one target. Their retaliation was widespread. They hit major economic hubs, key U.S. allies. We're talking Saudi Arabia, the UAE, so Dubai and Abu Dhabi, but also Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait got hit. The message was crystal clear. You can't sit on the sidelines in this one. The goal here was to cause as much economic pain as possible. So why does this matter to, well, everyone, even if you're thousands of miles away? It comes down to one place, the Strait of Hormuz. Just look at it. It's this tiny, narrow waterway, but it's one of the most critical choke points on the entire planet. About a fifth of the world's total oil supply has to pass through there. So if you disrupt that, you disrupt the entire global economy. Period. And that is exactly what happened. All of a sudden, you've got direct attacks on oil fields and a massive threat to the Strait of Hormuz. The combination sent immediate, powerful shockwaves tearing through the global economy. How big were the shockwaves? Well, look at oil prices. Brent crude, which is a big global benchmark, shot up 13% almost instantly. It went from around $71 a barrel to over 80. And a spike like that, it hits everybody. It affects the price you pay for gas, the cost of your groceries, pretty much everything. Okay, moving on to Section 4, a world divided. Because this wasn't just about money and oil. Taking out a world leader, even one as controversial as Khamenei, forces everyone to pick a side. It drew these really sharp lines in the sand, not just between countries, but even within them.
So on the world stage, the reaction was completely split down the middle. On one side, you had Russia calling it a cynical murder and China labeling it a serious violation of Iran's sovereignty. But on the other side, the U.S., with Trump hailing it as justice for the people of Iran, and Israel flatly stating, justice has been served. You couldn't get two more different reactions.
And what's really fascinating is that the reaction inside Iran was just as polarized. It's wild. You had the official state media declaring 40 days of mourning, with these massive, orchestrated crowds gathering in cities like Tehran. But at the exact same time, videos started popping up online showing people celebrating in the streets of other cities like Isfahan. They were even toppling statues of Khamenei. The country was literally split between grief and celebration.
And that division wasn't just happening in Iran or on the world stage. It was happening right inside the U.S. too. A Reuters/Ipsos poll came out and showed the American public was all over the place. Only about 27% of people actually approved of the strikes. A much bigger chunk, 43%, disapproved. And then you had this huge group, about 30%, who were just unsure. Nobody really knew what to make of it.
So that brings us to the big question. What happens now? Look, the bottom line is this. Khamenei was in power for decades. With him gone, Iran is staring into a massive power vacuum. And it's happening at the absolute worst time. The future is, well, it's anybody's guess.
So, yeah, it's the question everyone is asking. With Khamenei gone, who is actually in charge of Iran now? For so long, he was the one with the final say on everything. Who's steering the ship now that he's gone?
Well, according to Iran's constitution, power temporarily falls to an interim council. It's basically a three-person committee. You've got the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, who's seen as more of a reformist. Then you had the chief justice, Ghulam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, a total hardliner. And finally, Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi, another powerful cleric from the Guardian Council. So you've got one reformist and two hardliners who now have to share power. It creates this immediate tension. Who's really going to be calling the shots? The pragmatist or the ideologues?
And all of this really boils down to the billion-dollar question, was this whole thing just about taking out a threat, or was this the opening shot in a much bigger play, a direct push for regime change in Iran?
Now, the official line from the U.S., which we heard from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, is a firm no. He said, quote, "This is not Iraq. This is not endless. This is not a democracy-building exercise." So according to them, the goal was to cripple Iran's nuclear program and missile factories, not to get sucked into another endless war. Which leaves us right here, with this one deeply unsettling question. By taking out Khamenei, did the U.S. and Israel manage to cut the head off the snake and actually prevent a wider, maybe even nuclear war? Or have they just lit the fuse on a massive regional conflict that could spiral out of anyone's control?